and welcome to another Yes Japan Daily. This is Yes Japan Daily number 90. 90. Kyuju. Oh, some of you are thinking, couldn't I just say Kuju? But why would you? Kyuju sounds better to me. Personal preference. Anyway, it is number 90, and in 10 more, literally 10 more, we'll be at number 100. I'm very excited about that. Very, very looking forward to that. Oh, I also want to make sort of an update here for those of you that were maybe at one point subscribed to the iTunes podcast. And if you're not subscribed, you should subscribe now, because yesterday, really, really late at night, I did some programming and I fixed our podcast feed. So now it'll actually update every time a new show goes up, that every 5th show goes up on iTunes. So if you'd like to subscribe, it'll automatically download to your device. It doesn't have to be iTunes. You can do it on an Android. Also, it's compatible across most of what you might have, unless you've got some weird Sony Ericsson phone from a couple years back. I imagine that won't work. But today's topic is, it's weird. It's sort of not really what the topic is. The topic is things we do every day. But as I started writing this topic, I realized, holy crap, I can't teach these people things they do every day if they don't comprehend how verbs work. What if you don't know how verbs work? So then I started making the first part of it all about verbs, and then I realized I haven't really thought about verbs since I spent all the years thinking about verbs to write the books. Well, I think I have a much more clear understanding now of these verbs. It's the same methodology that I'm going to show you how verbs work in Japan. And it's the same methodology that we teach, but yet it's more compacted, and it might make more sense. And I think it might have a little bit more clarity than even our current book and our current online lessons, even though those are pretty clear. I think it pretty much is clear. Well, we'll see. All right, first of all, there's nothing else in the office but Diet Pepsi, so I'm forced to drink Diet Pepsi. And before I get started, I think I seem to everybody like a real strong guy. I'm like, personality-wise, I'm strong, right? Got my things going on, right? I got swag, whatever. I hear people say that. But I just want to sort of dispel that myth, okay? So I called my wife earlier this morning. I woke up like around 10 because I was up all night programming that podcast stuff. And I called her up and like, hey, honey, morning, all in Japanese. And I'm like, what are you guys doing for lunch? I'm probably gonna do a stream, and I gotta eat before. So I told her, listen, I'm gonna do a stream. I gotta eat before, so we can't eat together today. Normally, when my kids come back from Japanese school, they go to this Japanese school thing. We have lunch, but I was just letting her know, hey, by the way, I'm gonna be doing a stream, so I'm gonna eat first because I'm hungry. Then around like 12:30, I was like, man, I kind of want to eat with the family. So I called her up, and I'm like, hi, honey. Yeah, hey, you want to eat? And she's like, oh, I already told everybody we're going to eat. And then this is where I get really weak. I'm like, okay. Oh, no, it's cool. No, it's okay. She's like, no, I can't hear you. He's like, that's because I said it really small. And I was like really sad. But then I can't force her to come home and eat with me just so I can then immediately jump off and do it daily, right? So I felt really bad. So anyway, I didn't feel bad, actually. I felt weak. And I just I love the family so much. All right, anyway, just a little bit of sidetrack. Sorry about that. So I'm pretty weak. So now, so I come to the office where I haven't eaten, and I've been saving these. Okay, I've been saving these. I don't even know what they're called. Let's see. What are these called? Kudo something sen. I hate when they use that really overcomplicated kanji. I just don't understand it. But anyway, it's like a pepper-covered senbei, which is a rice cracker. And what's really cool is my friend, Mr. and Mrs. Fukumachi, who also have recorded some of the sounds on Yes Japan. They live right next to me. They have a house right next to me, and they brought this to me from Japan. This huge bag of these. Because when I was at their house last time, I said, yeah, these are great. Then they went to Costco in Japan. There is Costco in Japan. They call it Costco. And they bought this, which has like 12 of those in it. And it's these little senbei crackers. Oh, good. All right, now, once I get this senbei out of my mouth, we're going to talk about verbs, then we're going to talk about the things we do every single day. All right, number 90. Well, I just updated the iPad device with all of the new apps for iOS 6, and look what they did with my app. They put the, it used to be full screen. Now they forced me to have the time on there. Look at that. That is so lame, Apple. Why would you do that? Why would you make it do that? I mean, that's just retarded. Something that wasn't there before, now it's always there. Let me see if I can fix that. That is just irritating.
Nurse is up.
Wow. Okay. Well, you know what? We're going to have to deal with it for this episode. Oh, no. There we go. I fixed it. Okay. So we're going to talk about doshi. Because doshi, by the way, means verbs. You don't have to remember that. But here it is in case you want to. Doshi. Doshi. Okay. First kanji is for moving. Because it's an action thing, right? The thing that you do every day, the things that you do every day are actions, right? You wake up. You eat. You sleep. You talk. You work. These are all actions. Okay? And in course 1 of Yes Japan, you don't learn any verbs except for like 4 in the very end. That's by design. But in the beginning, you're like, man, I wish I knew some verbs. So let's say you don't know any verbs. Let's just talk about how they work today. Let's just go through them. Now, to keep it simple, we're going to talk about only 2 types of verbs. There's like 5 types of verbs. But these 2 that we're getting ready to talk about are extremely common. They are the most commonly used verb types. The other ones are rare or so minimal that you can memorize them all. Alright? First type of verb is the regular verb type. What is a regular verb? It's a verb that we just determined to call regular. It doesn't mean that the verb is special anyway. It's just how it conjugates. There's multiple ways to conjugate verbs. There's 2 main ways to conjugate verbs. We're going to talk about the 2 main ways, okay? Any verb. Now, I assume at this point you know hiragana. If you don't, go through it. Take the time, learn hiragana. All right? But let's just remember the... One second. Let's just remember the hiragana chart for a second, okay? Let's just look at this chart. It's in the back of the Japanese from Zero book, okay? So let's just look at this hiragana chart. I'm going to bring it up close to the camera. Now, you'll see, actually the chart starts from, so it's a, I, U, E, O, kaki, kukeko, sashi, gagi, gugego, sashi, suseso. Now you might notice a pattern, right? Japanese is a patterned language. A, I, U, E, O. Okay? That's the only sounds. That's like the mother sound. There are no other sounds in Japanese except for Everything else is based on a, I, U, E, O. Kaki, kukeko, sashi, suseso, mami, mumemo, papi, pupepo, babi, bubebo, hahi, hueho, doesn't matter. Shashu, sho, jaju, jo. The only sound that is not unique, that isn't following that pattern, is Okay? So what does that mean? It means that, let's just look at kaki, kukeko, all right? Kaki, kukeko. We have an A version of the K sound, ka. We have an E version, an E form of the K sound, ki. U form, what we call it U form, but U form if you want to get Englishy. But we're going to call it U form. We have A form, E form, U form, F form, O form. This might be fast, but you're going to watch this video more than once and you'll pick it up. So, A, I, U, E, O. So, when I say U form of a hiragana, I mean ku, pu, fu, mu, ru. I mean that. That's what I mean. If I say A form of a hiragana, I mean ka, sa, ta. Anytime it ends in that A sound. Okay? Keep that in mind. All Japanese verbs without fail, there is no distinction. Without fail, they end in an U hiragana. Okay? And these are what they can end with. This is it. U, ku, su, tsu, nu, mu. I say bu because no verb ends in fu. That's just a natural thing. And no verb ends in pu, so you don't have to deal with that. And mu and ru. These are this is it. I don't think I've missed any. All right? U, ku, su, tsu, nu, bu, mu, and ru. I did miss one. Gu. One could end in gu. All right? Doesn't matter. The key point is that every Japanese verb ends with an u hiragana. If you know that, okay, if you remember that, and by the way, when I say every Japanese verb ends, in an U form, you're like, well, I heard someone say don't go the other day, and it was ikimasen, and it ended with an un. And how about wakarimasen? I don't understand. That ends in un. We're not talking about a conjugated verb. We're talking about the dictionary form of the verb. The dictionary form. That means when you go to the dictionary, it says to go, it says iku. All right? So keep that in mind. Because that's how you learn verbs. You learn them in their dictionary form first. Now, based on what it ends with determines how you conjugate it. If any verb ends in u, ku, su, tsu, nu, bu, or mu, or gu, which I forgot, and sometimes ru, not all the time, we're going to talk about ru as a special thing. Sometimes ru, it is what is called a regular verb, and the conjugation of that verb is the same for every single verb that's regular. Regular verbs always conjugate exactly the same, with very, very minor exceptions, which you will learn as you learn Japanese. But for the most part, 99% of the time they conjugate the same. Not like English. Like, let's take English just for a second, right? I will go. Right? Okay, I will go. So I went. There's no pattern there. You can't say I will come. I kemped. Went, kemped. There's no pattern there. It's came all of a sudden. Went goes to came. It's not, doesn't make sense. Japanese though. Ikimasu. Kimasu. Ikimashita, kimashita. We're going to talk about that in just a second. But the verb can be conjugated to be, they're all exactly, once you learn conjugation, you learn it for every single verb. Right? That's why Japanese is actually an easy language. It's actually extremely easy when you get into it. Once you get past some of the things that are weird initially, Japanese is easy. All right, I don't want to spend too much time on this one slide. So those are what regular verbs are if they end in these hiragana and sometimes ru. Now, let's talk about an iru eru verb. Now keep in mind, this classification, iru eru, might not be something you've ever heard before, because other books don't call it this. Most other study materials they have this thing called ichidan verb and nidan and godan, and honestly, I don't know what those are. I never learned that system. And so I made this system when I wrote the book. When I wrote this book, when I wrote all the books, initially I was looking at other books and I was like, oh man, these books, I could never be this awesome. And then I realized they weren't awesome. They were just complicated. So I rewrote grammar without looking at any other grammar. That's why I think we're selling so many copies of these books, because it's a unique approach to Japanese. Okay, that's enough sales talk. Hopefully you already bought your version of this book. All right, now, iru eru verb is not something that you might have heard anywhere else, but it's really, really simple, okay? Iru eru, any iru eru verb is a verb that rhymes with iru eru. It makes so much sense, okay? So by rhyming with iru eru, I don't mean the entire verb, I mean the last two sounds, okay? So, here they are. Literally, these are the only things. I think I've got most of them. Maybe, geru would be one that I seem to have missed, but these are your basics, right? If it ends with eru or rhymes with eru, like keru, seru, teru, or rhymes or ends with iru, chiru, saru. It was kiru, siru. Excuse, I'm reading things backwards, so if I'm reading it wrong, forgive me. Anyway, this is it. This is all of them. Here's your screenshot right there. All right? Then it's what's called an iru eru verb. So mentally, that's a lot to think about. Oh, if it's a nidan verb or a sandan verb, that's too much to think about. But if you hear a verb like this, I'm going to give you a verb. I'm going to give you a verb that I'm going to make up. Baberu. What kind of verb is that? I'll see. It ends in a ru, so it could be a regular verb. No, but it rhymes. It ends in beru. It's an iru eru because it rhymes with iru eru. Iru eru rhyming verbs are iru eru verbs. Okay? There are some exceptions to that, but that's not what we're talking about today. Those are called what I call iru eru exception verbs. We're going to talk about one today, but it's not a big deal. Because iru eru exception verbs, they just conjugate just like the regular verbs. All right, hopefully I've not gone too fast. So those are two types. Two types of verbs that we're going to talk about today. If it ends or rhymes with iru eru, then it's an iru eru verb. And if it doesn't, then it's a regular verb. So, how do you conjugate those? Let's look. Okay. Now, before we conjugate, we need to know the verb endings. Okay, we're going to call these verb endings. We've got 5 verb endings we're going to talk about today. And like I said before, every verb in Japan follows a certain pattern of conjugation. All the regular verbs always conjugate the same. There's very minor, just very minor changes sometimes, but 99% of the time, always the same. And edu-edu verbs always conjugate like every other edu-edu verb. And then, I'll show you that conjugation in just a second, but you need to know these stems right here. Must is will do or do. It's a present future tense. I hate saying that. It's will do and do. I will do it and I do it. Mashita.
That's a past tense.
Even that, I don't like saying past tense if I can avoid it. It's the did form of the verb. I did it. You know what, man? Where's that book? I have got this book. It's not here. It's 500 Korean verb book because I'm studying Korean. And I swear it's stupid. Do not buy those books. Seriously. Unless you're a linguist. Because it says interrogative form, declarative form, causative form. But it never says will. Like, you think if they spent time making the book, they could literally take the time and say, will go, went. Did go, want to go. No, they don't say that. It's not want to go. It's like volitional, intentional. Boom, explosion. It doesn't help me learn. Give me the actual wording. Not, all they did is I'm going to tell you what they did, okay? They have a computer model that runs it and writes that entire book. That's it. I know because I have a verb conjugator that I'm working on, and you can do it you can do that. You can make a computer model, and it just puts all the generics in, and it doesn't actually give you any thought. Oh, I'm so pissed at those books.
500 Japanese verbs that you're never going to use.
In your daily life, how many verbs do we use? I'm mainly getting on a tangent today, sorry. All right, must. Forget whether it can be masu or must. Just remember it's must right now, okay? Will do and do. Mashita. Did. I'm spitting like this thing is like soaked in my spit. Sorry about that. Masen. Won't do and don't do. It's
Future negative.
and present negative. For example, I don't go to school. No, I don't go to school. You would use the masen on the end of that verb. And I will not go to school or I won't go to school. Masen. Didn't go. Very simple. Masen deshita. Masen deshita. And masho, which we normally don't learn until course 2 of Yes Japan, but I really think that should be a course 1 thing that we do, but we don't. Maybe eventually I'll rewrite that. But masho means let's do, all right? So keeping that in mind, here is the simplest conjugation formula you're ever going to learn, and remember, it works for every regular verb and every edu verb. Here it is. Very simple. Regular verbs. The last hiragana, which remember is always an u, you change it to the e form. That's the first step. And for edu-edu verbs, you drop the ru. Edu-edu, drop the ru. Remember that pattern. Edu-edu, drop the ru. Edu-edu, drop the ru. Then you add the stem. That's it. And you've made verbs. Boom. You've made verbs. Now we're going to go through some verbs we're going to practice, okay? These are things that you do every day. But I want you to just for a second, when all of your friends while you're learning Japanese, oh my God, that's so complicated. It's not complicated at all. It's really not. I think about Japanese every day, and now that I'm learning Korean, I think about it even more. And I realized Korean has more complication than Japanese. That's what I've found out so far. Maybe I'm biased because I don't know Korean yet. But Japanese verbs are so easy to put into a pattern. It's amazing. All right, so quick review, then we're going to go through some verbs. Remember, if it rhymes with idu or edu, it's an idu-edu verb. If it doesn't rhyme with an idu and edu, it's going to almost always, let's just say this. If it doesn't end with a ru, then it's a regular verb. If it doesn't end with a ru, it's a regular verb. That's it. If it ends with a ru and it rhymes with idu-edu, it could very well be an idu-edu verb. Okay? And that should be your first assumption. Then what you do is, for regular verbs, you change that u form hiragana into the e form hiragana. Remember, ku goes to ki, ru goes to ri, mu goes to mi, su goes to shi, tsu goes to chi. See how that works? Very simple. And if it is an edu verb, it's even simpler. You just drop the last ru and you add your stem. What are the stems? Mas, will do, do. Mashita, did. Masen, won't do, don't do. Masen deshita, didn't do. Masho, let's do. Okay? Here Here we go. First verb. What do you do every day? First thing you do every day. Wake up. You wake up. Okiru. Now let's look at that verb just for a second. Okiru. What does it rhyme with? Kiru. Iru. Iru. Oh, chills. Light bulbs. It's probably an iru-eru verb, and guess what? It is. Okiru. So to conjugate it, to say, I will wake up, will do, is must. And what do you do with an iru-eru verb? You drop the ru. Iru-eru, drop the ru. Okiru, okimasu. I will wake up. Okimasu. I will wake up. Now, you don't know times yet. Maybe you don't know anything else, but you know how to say I'll wake up. Later on, you learn how to say I'll wake up at 6. And then later on, you'll know I wake up every day at 6. When I have done homework late into the night, I will sometimes wake up at... See, you just need to know that first conjugation. Then you learn all the things around it, right? How do you say I woke up? Oki. Okiru becomes oki plus mashita. Okimashita. I didn't wake up. I'm dead. I'm dead. Okimasen deshita. Okimasen deshita. I didn't wake up. He didn't... And he didn't wake up. Okimasen deshita. Literally, didn't wake up. He died. He's dead, right? That doesn't mean that, but you could imply that if you didn't wake up, maybe if you have more around that sense, you didn't wake up at the right time. But, you know, situationally, you could be dead, okay? While we're talking about okiru, I would like to get some feedback. This is a one-to-one personal question. When I wake up in the morning, right, I'm in my bed. You know how there's a moment where you kind of, like, either you hit the snooze and you're sort of awake, or you've woken up naturally and you haven't moved yet, right? And I'm laying in bed, and I haven't woken up yet, really. I'm sort of laying in bed, right? Does this happen to you? Do you all of a sudden move without actually making the decision to move? This is what happens to me. I'm in my computer chair because I have my bed is high up. I have my bed really high up so I can have things underneath it, and my chair is below me, so I scoop down into my chair. But after I've scooped into my chair and my hand's already in my mouth, I realize, holy crap, I did not make that decision. Does that happen to you? Like, or I'm halfway to the bathroom and I realize, I decided to wake up, but it wasn't like a conscious decision. I want to know if that happens to you. Please post it in the forum. And I'm not trying to get you just to post on the website or on YouTube or wherever, but I literally want to know because when I try to control it, I find it very hard. It's like, I'm getting ready to get up right now, I'm going to make the choice, and now I'm getting up 3, 2, 1. I literally have to put that much thought into it to actually wake up on my own. Other than that, like there's some sort of break point where my mind goes, I'm up, and I get up. All right, that's all about okiru. Wow, this might be a very long daily. All right, so we know what okiru does, right? Now, another thing you do every day, you do it every day multiple times, unless you're on a fast. You eat. Taberu. What kind of verb is that? Well, see, it ends in ru, but does it rhyme with iru-eru? Let me just think for a second. Taberu, iru-eru. It does. It rhymes with iru-eru. Therefore, it is an iru-eru verb. So what do you do to conjugate it? You drop that ru. That is the rule. You drop the ru. Iru-eru, drop the ru. Then you add your stem. So, I will eat, tabemasu. I mean, later on, you'll learn other things with verbs, right? Like, you'll learn how to say, I eat sushi, o, object particle, sushi o tabemasu. You learn those things, right? How about, I didn't eat? I jumped up to, I didn't eat. I didn't go right to the, I ate. What is it? Tabemasen deshita. Who knows how to say, I ate? I ate. Come on, everyone in the chat room, tell me right now, I ate. There's a little bit of a lag. Everyone's going to say it in 3, 2, 1. Either that or they have not been paying attention. There you go. Tabemashita. Tabeta. Okay. Some guy's doing past tense. He's being a total jerk, not following the pattern I've set. He's not doing past tense. He was doing informal. Sorry. We're not talking about informal. We're talking about polite. This is a very nice way to speak polite. Everyday polite Japanese. All right. I'm not going to eat. Tabemasen. Eat it. Tabemasen. I'm not going to eat. All right? So, there you go. How do you say let's eat? Let's eat. Tabemashou. All you have to do is remember those 5 verb stems, and you got, literally, if you knew 100 verbs, and you figure out how to conjugate, if you realize how what I'm talking about works, you now can say 500 things easily. From 100 to 500. 10 to 50. It times everything you know by 5, all right? Oh, gosh. And then add a ka on the end, right? Tabemashou ka? Shall we eat? Right? Tabemasu ka? Are you going to eat? Tabemasen ka? You aren't going to eat? Tabemashita ka? Did you eat? Now you've got another 5 things you can do by just knowing how to make a question in Japanese. All right, next one. Another thing you do, if you eat, you drink, right? Nomu. Ooh, nomu. Nomu, to drink. Well, shoot, it doesn't rhyme with iru-eru. Up until now, I've had this really easy thing. I just dropped the ru. But I have nomu. So it's a regular verb. What do? I change the final hiragana, the nomu, the u form into the e form. Nomi, then I'm done. Now I add my stem. I will drink, nomimasu. Nomimasu. I drank, nomimashita. I won't drink, nomimasen. And this means drinking anything. Doesn't mean just alcohol, right? Oh, I like to drink. That would mean the same thing, but also, I like to drink Pepsi. I'm drinking Pepsi. Here, I'm getting ready to drink, nomimasu. Nomimashita. Pepsi o nomimashita. Nomimasen deshita. I didn't drink. Alright, next verb. Iku. Iku. To go. To go. Very, very big verb. You use it all the time, right? Iku. So how do you say I will go? U goes to E form. Iku, iki. Ikimasu. I will go. I didn't go. Ikimasen deshita. I went. Ikimashita. Let's go. Ikimashou. Ikimashou. Hey, shall we go? Ikimashou ka? Won't you go? Won't you go? It's actually a suggestive format when you do it that way. It's like, hey, why don't you go with me? Ikimasen ka? Won't you go? See what happens when you know a little bit of grammar rules? Instead of sitting there on Rosetta Stone, hitting the one picture at a time and mentally going through this Olympics trying to figure out what the hell they're trying to teach you. No, learn some grammar and you will be amazing at Japanese. Japanese is not an easy language. It is not. Whoops. Not a hard language. That was like a Freudian slip. It's not a hard language. But for some reason, people have a hard time teaching it sometimes. It's not hard. There are so many patterns in Japanese. You learn those patterns and then practice them. Then you'll hear a new verb. For example, I'm going to give you another new verb, right? You're going to be able to conjugate a verb that you've never heard before. And let me just make it up, right? Hombagu. Hombagu. It's nowhere near being a verb. How would you say, I hombagued? How would you say that? Hombagu. Well, it ends in gu. It's not an iru-eru verb. That gu turns into a gi, because it's e form. Hombagimashita. I hombagued. Hombagimasen. No, I don't hombagu. I don't do that. Hombagimasen deshita. I didn't. Hombagimashou? Let's hombagu. I mean, you guys can tell me what you think that verb means. It means nothing. Hombagu. Hombagu. It's sort of similar to hambaga, hamburger. I don't know what. Wow. Normally I come up with baberu, but we already used baberu as a verb. I mean, go back to baberu though. Baberu, the verb that I just made up, right? That's an iru-eru verb, obviously, right? Baberu, drop the ru. Iru-eru, drop the ru. Babemashita. I babeta, whatever that means, right? All right. I talk every day. Hanasu. Hanasu. This one might be a little bit tricky because it's not, the su doesn't go to a si, it goes to shi. Because if you know the e forms, it's sa, shi. Su says so. If you know the hiragana, it's shi. So, hanasu, I spoke. I talked. Hanashimashita. Hanashimashita. I won't speak. Hanashimasen. I will speak. Hanashimasu. Right? Later on, I'll blow your mind. We'll do a part 2. Let's do a part 2 of this. We're going to do everything, things you do every day. We're going to do a part 2 where I teach you like 4 more verb forms, okay? But it's really easy. Using that, if you know hiragana, this is why, by the way, in book 1, we do not teach you any verbs until you know all the hiragana because that hiragana chart is magic for verbs. We're going to do a part 2 of this maybe later today. This is let's do that. Later today, we're going to do a part 2. I'm going to come back later this evening. And this is number 90. Number 91 is going to be part 2. And it's not going to be on iTunes. It's not going to be on iTunes and our podcast. And it won't be on YouTube. But come to yesjapan.com. And the last 5 shows are always free. So the minute that 90 goes up, be watching Yes Japan because the last 5 show will be free. And we're going to talk about 4 more verb forms. All right? Another thing you do every day. You read. Yomu. Yomu. Yomimashita. I read. Yomimasen. I'm not going to read. Yomimasen deshita. I didn't read. Yomimashou? Yomimashou? Let's read. See how that works? Alright, this last one. I think it's the last one. Nope, it's not the last one. I want you to think without me. This is another thing. Sometimes teachers, they never shut up. So I'm going to shut up on this one. I'm going to show you the verb. I'm going to say just the verb part. And then I'm going to give you the English, and I want you to think about what the Japanese would be, okay? All right, and then I'm going to give you time to think about it, all right? Think. Hataraku. Hataraku. Will work. I will work. Hataraku. Hataraki. Add the stem. Hatarakimasu. Sometimes, I've noticed this because I translate at I basically translate for a school pretty much, so they're teaching people things, and I translate what the teacher says, and they go, all right guys, you got any questions? All right, let's move on. Boom, they don't give you any time to think if you actually have a question. And sometimes I'm guilty of this too when I used to teach the live Japanese classes. I'd say, all right, who knows what this is? Boom, and I'd say, oh, you guys don't know, huh? Hey, you guys don't know. And I give their brain no time to think, all right? Sometimes this is very important for a teacher to do. Shut up. All right? The verb is hataraku. How would you say I worked? Most of you got that right. I can't really hear what you're saying. Hataraku, hataraki, hatarakimashita, hatarakimashita. That mashita becomes mashita, by the way. Hatarakimashita, hatarakimashita. Right? Oh, I'm not going to work tomorrow. I'm not going to work. I'm not going to work. Hatarakimasen. And I didn't work. Hatarakimasen deshita. Hatarakimasen deshita. How about the final one? Let's work. Let's work. Hatarakimashou. Very nice, right? Now we're gonna, I think this is the last one. No, it is not. Believe it or not, I put like the billion verbs in here. Here we go. This is a weird one, and I put it in here just to throw you off. Kaeru. Kaeru. Now, kaeru, to return, ends in eru, and it rhymes with eru, so obviously it's an iru-eru verb, right? No. This is one you're just gonna have to remember. It's an iru-eru exception verb. All that means is it's a regular verb. I mean, how easy is that, right? You just remember that kaeru, to return, is a regular verb, and then you conjugate it the normal way. Kaeru, I will return. Kaerimasu. Kaerimasu. I'm not going to return. Kaerimasen. I returned. I'm home. It means I'm home. I came home. Kaerimashita. By the way, there's another verb for return. This kaeru is always about going back to your origin, your original place, your home, the place where you live. For example, you can't say, I'm going to return to Japan if you've never lived in Japan. And it's even awkward if you did live in Japan and you're a foreigner. You modoru. Modoru is the verb to return to a place that you didn't originate from, right? Like, I'm going to go back to work. You don't kaeru to work. You modoru to work, okay? And how do you say I returned? Using the modoru form. I mean, it ends in a ru. I'm sorry, I didn't give you enough time to think, but it ends in a ru, but it's doru. So there's no way possible that modoru could be an iru-eru verb because it doesn't rhyme with iru or eru. It's doru, oru. It doesn't rhyme with anything, right? Modoru. I returned. Modorimashita. I'm not going to return. Modorimasen. See how that works? And now our last verb, neru. You do this every day. You sleep. You go to bed. Neru. Is it an iru-eru verb? Think about it. Neru. Damn straight it is. Neru. Now, you might be thinking, well, wait a minute, but kaeru, maybe it's, because kaeru was an exception, maybe this is an exception. Remember, the exceptions are rare. Your base thinking should always be, it's an iru-eru verb if it rhymes with iru-eru. And how do you conjugate it? How do you say I slept? I went to bed. I almost didn't shut up. Nemashita. It's hard to shut up, by the way. One of the hardest things you can do as a human being is to shut up and let people think. If you've got kids, why aren't you doing your homework? I told you to do your homework. No. Hey, come here. I need to talk to you for a second. Can you tell me why you're not doing your homework? there have been times when I've yelled at my kids and then found out I had no basis to yell because they were like done with their homework. So if you sometimes ask them, assuming that you don't know anything, you might be better. How do you say I'm not going to sleep? Nemasen. Good job. Now normally at this part in the daily, we would do something called jiko shokai. But this daily is way long. So I'm not going to throw a jiko shokai in today. Maybe later on this evening we will, in part 2 of everyday things that we do. All right, thank you for watching the Yes Japan Daily. I will see you all in just a little bit, in maybe a few hours. I'll go ahead, after I eat lunch, we'll do another daily. I'll see you then. Bye-bye.